So we're just going to give everybody some time to get settled. We appreciate the patience this morning. Thank you very much.
So I'm good to go if you're good to go.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I can see my peeps. All right. So good morning, everybody. Sorry guys, I just need to orient myself a little bit. Y'all been doing this for 2 days, but I need a little bit of a moment. So I'm just gonna take it. Okay. Okay. You guys good? All right. Hi, everybody. So my name is Patty Becker. I'm here from In Control, Wisconsin. We've been asked to facilitate a conversation today with Anna, Angie, and Corin related to how they access their life and support that through IRIS and using IRIS and other natural supports. My role today as that facilitator comes to you as the In Control Wisconsin board member. Most of you will be familiar with the fact that In Control is a sponsor of the conference and has been since the beginning of the SD conference has its history. So just a quick bit about In Control. In Control is a small private nonprofit run by a board of directors. For some of you who are familiar with Selfdirection, and not most of you at this conference usually are, we connect to Simon Duffy and as well as other national organizations in the US for Selfdirection. Just sharing with you, you're always welcome to go to the In Control website. One of our board members, Lynn Breedlove, continues to update information about policy and things that are happening around the world. Some highlights, again, kind of preaching to the choir during these conferences, but what we know is that if people have a lack of control, right, over their lives, it can lead to poor health and actually shorter life expectancy. So that's one of those reasons that self-determination is so important. The theme of this sort of session today is how do you have control over your life and what does that look like and how do you apply that within an IRIS waiver experience. And what we want to think about is always making sure that people have that valued role, right? They're not just at a seat at the table. We want to make sure that people are fully engaged and having conversations and seen as a valued member. That individuals need knowledge, skills, confidence, and time, right, to make the best use of that control. So we want to make sure that as a system, we're providing support, and as advocates, we're doing that as well to learn those things and have access to that information. And then the other thing we talk about, again, is that idea of support. And we're going to spend some time, a lot of time today, hopefully, that Anna and Angie and Corin are going to share about the supports that they've had in their life and how that impacts both their life now and the life that they are building. Just a quick visual here for folks. I always like to remind individuals self-determination and self-direction are really two different things. One moves the other though, right? So self-determination is a civil rights, social justice. It's the choices that all of us have as citizens and as people and humans that we should have access to. And that is regardless of disability or supports and all of those labels. Self-direction is that power that we have in Wisconsin and in other places to shape your life if you are someone who comes to the system with labels and support needs, right? So self-direction is really the action side of the concept, and In Control likes to help people remember those two differences, so I wanted to take a minute for that. I am watching the chat a little bit, so again, I'm a fast talker. If anyone's got questions or things they need to interject, feel free. We'll try to keep track. So let's transition a little bit more to just the great conversation and the experts in the room, who are Anna, Angie, and Corin. So what we when we feel asked about this session and conversation, we realize that there's sometimes confusion, right? And that idea of fog and clouds and that visual is, I think, really helpful to think about. And what we know is that on the other side of that, right? If we keep moving, that we can achieve the dreams and the goals that we have for our life, as long as we keep moving forward. So this is the space for Anna and Corin and Angie. Got a couple of questions. And again, if other people come up with questions they want me to ask, or you want to make sure that they are comments. Oh, I'm going to slow down, Diana. Thank you for the tip. I'm talking too fast. And just a reminder for folks, if you need the translation, there's a globe for you to point to and use. So back to, I'm just going to slow us down. So we're going to take a minute here. Anna and Corin and Angie, are you guys ready?
Sure.
Okay. Corin, I'm missing your face.
I'm here.
Okay, good.
Angie said she was doing this on her own.
All righty. That's okay. So maybe since you guys are unmuted, do you want to go first and let us and kind of answer that question about, Angie, tell us about where you live and where you work?
Well, I work at the coffee.
All right. Yeah. And can you go ahead?
Program.
Can you tell us about that? What does that mean? What's a coffee what is the coffee program?
Well, a coffee program means that we had to do a lot of things online
Mm-hmm.
because we couldn't do things in the coffee shop
Because of COVID.
yeah, because of COVID.
Yeah.
And the coffee shop was not done yet, so we did a lot of things online. We did lots of videos and Zoom meetings and other
So
Zoom
you're
meetings.
in it. Oh, go ahead.
It's since it's open, I'm a barista now. I've been working with drinks and coffee and all kinds of stuff in the coffee shop.
Yeah. What's your favorite drink to make as a barista? Surprise Patty question.
I don't actually drink coffee.
No, but what drink do you like to make the most?
Oh, I don't know.
Are all of them fun?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were working at the coffee shop with something that you got supports to do, right? Can you say a little bit about who helped you get connected to that coffee shop?
Maria.
Maria over at Tracy.
Okay. And is she someone who helps you find work?
Well, technically, she found the coffee shop for me.
Okay.
She found the job.
Yeah. That's awesome. So she found the job because she sort of knew you were looking to work in the community, right? It's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Raised your hand and said, hey, I want to work. And then, right? And then kind of reached back to people in your life who could help you make that happen, right? And Maria sounds like she was one of them. Probably some coworkers
Yeah.
at the coffee shop are people that help you every day,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. That's awesome. Were there things that you had to do, or that you what about other parts of your life? Like, where do you live and how do you get support there?
You're in Delvin.
Yeah. Somebody told me that sometimes you make stuff in crock pots.
Oh, I don't do that.
You're not, are you working on helping to make dinner and other things?
No.
No?
Yeah, you
Okay.
do. You do sometimes.
Yeah, maybe not right now.
No.
All right. Should we let Anna tell people about her life?
I live in Monona and I work for a job development business. So I assist people with trying to get a foot in the door for various employers to get internships or job interviews. And I work on a podcast in my free time. It's called Lead the Way with Anna Gauker. And I have a book that I am finishing up very soon called Don't Ask Permission to Fly. And there should be updates coming up if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter.
Awesome. So Anna, can you say a little bit more about your book and kind of what led you to that particular title? Because I really like it.
Well, it's a collection of essays, and all the essays are about experiences that I have had or people that I look up to, people who have influenced me. And the theme is really about just being true to who you are, what the vision is that you have for your own life, and not letting other people or systems kind of overshadow or push you into a mold that you don't really fit.
Yeah. And would you say that that's, can you tell me a little bit more about sort of in your IRIS experience or in your self-direction experience? Because you've been self-directing before it was cool, right? Like that's kind of how you lived your life. Kind of, how those things fit in with that same idea. Does that make sense? That's a longer question.
Yeah, I've always done my own hiring and interviewing and training for all of my caregivers. And I have in-home supports through IRIS as well, who help with cooking and cleaning and that sort of thing. And I think that it's important to just make your life work for you in whatever way that you can, and develop a team atmosphere and use your time in a way that is valuable to you. And I think that sometimes that means working on my podcast or just staying organized with the paperwork that I have to keep track of in order to have these services. And that is sometimes a full-time job in itself.
Right. Thank you. Okay. So that leads me to this next slide, right? That idea of who are the people in your life that you stay connected to. And sometimes what we all know in everybody's life, right? It's not always people from the official system, right? It's people you might know that you went to school with, or individuals that you've met in other relationships. So we'll have Anna go first here, Angie, and then we'll come to you, okay? Okay, so Anna, can you talk a little bit about that? Like throughout your life, there have been people, right? Either at college or even in high school that you were that supported you, or that that you knew and kind of knew your story and you trusted. Can you talk a little bit about that and how you stay connected to those people now?
People that I've known.
Yeah, you'd mentioned about your team, right? Like sort of how do we sustain a team over time?
Right. I think that communication's really important, and making sure that everyone's on the same page about what kind of a vision that you have for your life. And for me, that means working and doing projects that I'm passionate about as well. And the idea is that hopefully that you can attract people who are also interested in that type of vision, and people who are excited about carrying that forward with you. And I've been really fortunate in that regard as well. And I think that there's a lot of additional responsibility that comes with self-direction and being responsible for maintaining, like for me, a caregiver schedule that can be time consuming and requires a lot of creativity, and sometimes it's something that I feel like I use a lot of creativity just to make things come together and piece all aspects of what I need to support my life, and hope that I have some of the creativity left over for things like my book. Because,
Right. So what I'm hearing you say is that like self-direction takes it takes energy, right? And a lot of creative thinking. And like most of us, then you want to make sure you still have some balance there, right? Some left to do the stuff that's fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What ways, or what, can you give us an example of some way you've created that within your IRIS plan that you've been creative with your supports?
Well, I think that I do whatever I can to stay organized and that sort of thing. And sometimes it can be really overwhelming, trying to keep track of where I'm at with my caregiver schedule, and is there something that I'm forgetting about? Did I forget to sign a certain piece of paperwork that will make everything? So sorry.
This is real life.
Yep. And that's my dog. So her name's Coco.
Sweet.
So yeah, I think that. What was the question?
An example of a way that you've used your IRIS plan, or people connected to you to stay creative in that, in managing that schedule, right? Like, are there things that your IRIS consultant might do for you, or conversations you might have with them?
Yeah. I think that I've had experiences with IRIS consultant letting me know about a new apartment that they saw that I might be interested in, and that helped me move my previous plan forward, and that was really helpful. And they've let me know about other resources that are available in the community, so that's been good as well.
So kind of in that beginning slide we were talking about, like, right, your IRIS consultant's helping you have the information you need to make choices, right? And being aware, and it sounds like you're saying that it's helpful for your team to all have the same vision of where you're going, in order to be able to identify when your team's kind of out and about, right? Seeing things that might flip a lever to say, oh, Anna was looking for an apartment and I saw this here, right? So from that team atmosphere, all that creativity gets built, right? It's all hands on deck all the time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Andy, how about you? Can you tell us, like, I know, like, you went to Lakeland School, right? How do you stay connected? Yep. Do you see any of your teachers or stay connected to any friends or family that you knew from there, or families you knew from there?
I see Joanna, well, sometimes.
Yeah. So maybe your mom helps you stay connected to those folks or in different ways.
Yeah, because she comes over.
Are we gonna let your mom talk today, Angie? As a mom, this really gets me.
Right? I know. Yeah, one of her friends comes over periodically with her dogs. So Angie gets to say hi to her and talk a bit.
Yeah.
Angie knows how to use her phone, so she communicates that way.
Yeah.
But
So really one of those things of like knowing from, right? Again, it's that idea of planning and being creative ahead of the game, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
So you, right, teach Angie, you learning how to use a phone and having access to your phone so you could stay connected to people you knew, right? And carry that forward into other parts of your life.
Yes.
And then not to kind of out, but I know you guys at your house, right, have people bring pets there for different things.
Yep.
So that's an example, I guess I'd say, of, you know, something that's in your life, Angie, that's not attached to the services or supports, but it helps you to keep relationships, right? Finding those opportunities to stay connected.
Yes, one of my clients, actually, their granddaughter works with Angie over at Inspired Coffee. So they've made really good friends.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. And it's that idea of how do we pursue those relationships and sustain them so that you have people can help you be creative, as Anna says.
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. I'm just going to be mindful of time here. I know we started a little bit late. Super. Are there other tips or things you want to make sure folks are hearing about, something unique maybe related to transportation or other supports that you have that you want to share?
Well, this, you know, a few years ago, I called the Delavan Police Department and asked them if they had some kind of registry where the police department would know what homes had special needs children in them. So when they went to the home, that they would know how to approach these people. And they said no. This morning, I got an email from Jamie over at Seeds of Hope. Walworth County has a registry. You can go online, register your kid with them, let them know what your child or person's disability is. And it even asks how they should deal with your person, which I think is very good, because we did have an instance where the police officer showed up at the door and he scared Angie and he was yelling at her, and he called me, or she called me, and she kept saying, talk to my mom. And he's saying, no, I don't want to. And he's asking her questions, and I could hear this gentleman yelling at her. And I'm thinking, you're a police officer. You should identify there's something not right here. So thank God my daughter is persistent as she is. And she said, no, talk to my mom. And he took the phone, and it wasn't until that I explained to him that she has special needs. She is developmentally delayed. I said, you need to talk to her slowly so she understands. And that's when he finally calmed down, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. You know, so I am really glad that Walworth County has this registry out now, that you can go online and register so they can deal with people like this out in the community. And it even asks on there, where does this person normally hang out? Do they hang out at a library, a church, a school? So if they are in that area of town, they can identify that person.
Yeah. So what you're saying, what I hear you saying is that it's also important to connect with just services that are right? Police are a public service in your community. You shouldn't forget to reach out to them and add them to your team if you need to.
Yep.
Right?
And your neighbors.
Absolutely.
I mean, our neighbors, we know the majority of our neighbors on the block, and they know that if Angie's in trouble, watch out for her.
Yeah.
You know, as we do the other kids that are outside playing and running up and down the block.
Yeah. I just wanted, so I have a couple of questions. And somebody is letting us know that in Kenosha County, you also can reach out to the sheriff's department and let them know if there's somebody vulnerable living in those homes, so that the police are aware when they visit. as well as this mom says they have signs on their back. They put a sign up on their door, and that also on her son's seatbelt. So that's another tip on how to let the community, how to be connected to the community. Someone else indicated that that they reached out to the fire department, right, and made some relationships with people in the fire department so that they knew as well, right, to respond and to be supportive. So someone has a question a little bit more about how things connect back to the IRIS plan, and I'm just going to answer that right away. Is that so the Angie specific to sort of, and Anna as well, like maybe we can more in the, what do I want to say here? So Angie and Corin, are there particular services or types of items that you want to make sure on Angie's service plan, like her IRIS plan, that support the work at Inspired Coffee? And then Anna will come to you too with the same question for like the supports. How do you get support to do a podcast if you're using that or things like that? So Angie and Corin, you want to go first?
Well, through IRIS, Angie has gotten into hippotherapy. So she's in therapeutic writing, and she has a group of people there too that help her. And if we need something, all we have to do is ask.
Yeah.
You know, so that is really good support for her. Plus, she gets to interact with other children like her and around her age. So it's really helped out a lot.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that that service, which is like, oh, this is something Angie wanted to do. You talk to your IRIS consultant about it. And then out of that one service, which is probably like an hour a week, you're building all these other relationships that are sustaining the work that the other, the communication and the community connection. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. So Anna, how about you? Like what is a specific, people like service descriptions. So like what kind of service types or things are on your plan? If you're open to sharing that, that'd be great.
That's a good question, because for quite a while I say in the meeting, nothing's changed. It's the same. So I should really refresh my memory about that as well. But I think that in terms of what I have in place that support what I'm doing, I do have, what are they called? Like hired workers?
Yeah, so you have personal care workers or employees, supportive home care,
they always
maybe?
have a new name.
Yeah.
Like every year. So I have those. And I think that when you find people that you click with, at least for me, I go to sleep. I do whatever I can to use that time constructively and figure out what their strengths are, and do as much as I can to kind of shape what I need to accomplish around who I'm gonna be with. So I just plan on certain days accomplishing certain things. Sometimes that means communicating with new caregivers, working on the schedule, or making sure that my plan of care is into the doctor at that time, and that way it's there to be signed before the deadline.
Yeah. So are you using self-directed personal care?
Yes. Well,
right. So it's
a little bit of that.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing you say is that you hire employees and you use supportive home care potentially as a service type, as well as self-directed personal care, that you then kind of say, okay, this employee is really good at
organizing.
So when, so when they show up, that's going to be the stuff you give to that person to do, right?
Right.
Okay. And then if you've got maybe somebody who's more computer savvy, they might be somebody who helps you with the
No,
podcast.
we needed somebody
Is that what
Correct.
you're saying?
else.
Yeah.
And it has somebody.
So I think that's the space sometimes people get caught in, is as the employer, right, you have control over how those folks are spending their time with you. And it does take a little bit of a plan to think about how that helps to forward your supports. But even though it's called supportive home care, right, it can actually be support for your podcast or things that are fun, right? Because it's really supported life care, right?
Right.
In some ways. And I think I see that with both of you guys. It's like knowing enough to just ask why not, or how about if we just do it this way, and feeling like you have some liberty to do that is super important. Yeah. So I'm going to move us to the next slide, unless Angie or Corin, did you have any other thoughts about that sort of idea of how to use a service in a more creative way, or just engaging? I think you covered it.
Yeah, we're good.
All right. Your birds are good today too. I hear them in the background.
we have the loud one covered today.
So for those of you in the room who don't know, I have a bird at my house, and Angie and Corin have birds at their house. So when we've been practicing, we've had these little the birds have tried to practice with us too. I would say.
Yeah, Angie's is quite talkative this morning. So
yes, it's awesome. So this is the magic question, right? And I think you've probably each had an experience with this, but if you can tell us a story of one time that you remember somebody said no to you, or told you that the choices you were making weren't safe, and what did you do about that? Or how did you respond to it? Anna, do you want to go first?
I don't think we have it.
Well, I think it's just what you were just saying, which is asking questions.
You can tell her.
And trying to get everyone on the same page, like we were talking about before. And if someone's saying your life is not safe, then making sure that there's a meeting where everyone is in the same room or virtual room, and asking questions about why that would be and how we can address this in a way that makes everyone feel comfortable. Oh, just leave. What was that?
So what you're saying is that idea of, just again, back to that vision, right? Helping everyone have the same vision of where life can go.
I think that it's tricky because when you're told, no, this isn't safe for you, it almost makes you feel like it's all on you to figure something out, and doing what you can to reframe the situation and make sure that other people understand that you're in this together and they should be helping you figure this out. How we can move past a particular barrier is really important.
Yeah, that's a really great thing. So, I just really appreciate that you're saying that, because it's this idea of it's self-directed, and now you're out there on your own and all alone. But what you're reminding people of is it's not all alone, right? If we're truly a team, if you telling me that I'm making a choice that isn't safe, you as my teammate have some responsibility to help me think that through.
Right, and come up with an alternative.
Yeah. That's great. How about Corin and Angie? Do you have any thoughts about this idea of being told, nope, can't do that, not for you?
Well, I've told Angie no. Angie can get stubborn sometimes, and if she wants to go to the gas station and she's like, well, I can just walk there. it's a half a block away. And I'm like, no, that's not safe for you because, and she knows somebody can steal her. Somebody can grab her or hurt her. So then I'm like, okay, let's get in the car. We drive there.
Mhm.
So
you
she,
find,
she can go, but she can't be alone.
yeah, I think you shared a story with me about kind of working within your neighborhood though as well to get to know people. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we have a fireman that lives kitty corner across from us. We know the neighbors pretty much within 6 houses around us across the street, and down the block. So we have 25 kids on our block. So a lot of times if I can't be out in front with Ange, my neighbor's always out in front. She's like the block watch party. And I'll talk to her and say, can you keep an eye on Ange for me? You know, because I'll be in the shop working. And she's like, yeah. And we exchange phone numbers, you know, we text back and forth. If something's going on, like if we see an ambulance or the fire trucks are down on the block, we're, you know, seeing if the neighbors are okay, you know. So everybody watches out for everybody on the block. If the neighbors are going out of town and they're going to be gone for a week on vacation, they let certain ones know. So we watch the house.
Yeah. So it's sort of building that community, right? Back to the same kind of idea that Anna was talking about, right? We have a team of people. We have people who are connected to us that can provide supports, but they don't know it unless we talk to them.
Exactly. And we have set up with our neighbor right next door. He's a teacher, and if there's ever an emergency, Angie knows she can run to his house and he will let her in, and he will call proper authorities, whatever, you know. And we've actually had that happen a few years ago.
Yeah, and then you shared with me as well a little bit about how you've secured that for the future for Angie with regard to your house. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I have guardianship of Angie, and we actually went to court, and we have a second guardian on file. If something were to happen to me, she has a brother as backup as well. And she will always be able to live in this home, even if I'm not here.
So it's that idea of planning ahead with a backup to the backup.
Yes, because Angie, I've always taught her life skills. She is pretty self-sufficient around the house. There's certain things we don't let her do just for safety reasons. But, you know, even the house has fire alarms on every floor that are hardwired. So if one goes off, they all go off. And she knows to get out of the house. She has 2 exits. So yeah, we have a plan.
Angie, does that sound right? Do you have anything you want to say back about that?
No.
No. Does sometimes mom want you to, is there sometimes a no from mom that you wish was a yes?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay.
She's pretty spoiled.
I think Amy had a question about sort of continuity of supports related to if mom's not home. And I think we answered that with there are some that you have neighbors and other family members that provide that backup for you guys. Anna, were there any other backup plan tips you wanted to maybe provide people and how that relates to their IRIS plan?
I don't know. I just think that
If mom's not home, you stay in the house, right?
things can be kind of a roller coaster. Prepare for every possible scenario ahead of time.
Yeah.
Like last week, I had go to sleep. A new caregiver, who was supposed to come for training, and I hadn't gotten confirmation that she was still planning on coming. So when I went to bed that night, I was so concerned and stressed. Like, is she coming? Is she not coming? Do I need to redo the schedule for the next week? Like, what's happening? And when you live with that kind of uncertainty, it can be scary. And I know that I said everyone needs to be on the same team, and that is so true. But there is that fact that, like, what I kept telling myself in this situation was I am the most capable person to face this situation right now. Microphone off. My whole life has prepared me for that situation, and I think that if there was a solution, then I would be able to find it. And things tend to work out when you know that you've experienced so many things, and like I said before, you come up with creative ideas.
Yeah. So that live and learn, right? Learn and you kind of in your past experiences and then carrying that stuff forward for sure.
Yeah, and just knowing that if you don't have a backup plan for the backup plan for the backup plan, then you know that every obstacle you do face is preparing you for the next possible surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the things I appreciate about both of you so much is that you're always thinking what comes next, right? Kind of always planning for the future and having those conversations really openly with the people who support you to say, well, what's this going to look like 2 years from now, right? What's this going to look like 3 years from now? And how do I get closer to that goal? I think sometimes it's hard because we get stuck in our day to day to kind of look. I always talk about this about like looking up and looking out, right? You have to keep looking out to see so that you can prepare for when that's going to happen, because time keeps moving, whether we ask it to or not. Right. So I'm going to take us to the next space here is this idea of, I just want to let people know one more thing. The In Control has something called the SD Network. It's an online community. It's free to join. Stacy Ellingen, who is a diehard winner from last year. Some people know Stacy. Stacy monitors this every day. She's posting information up to the network. It's a great place for people to go and have these kinds of conversations outside of the conference. If you have questions about how are you doing, backup plans in IRIS or in any other CLTS or family care, this is a place you can go and ask those questions, and somebody will respond to you, either another peer on the network, or Stacy is amazing at kind of finding the answers to the questions and making sure that people have the information they need. So we're going to take the next the remaining time we have here, and I think we're got about 5 more minutes until we officially end, if I'm not mistaken. But y'all are going to a big break, so you can run over a little bit. But if people had questions they wanted to ask directly, this would be the time to do that, either in the chat or just, Gary, I'm going to need you to unmute yourself a little bit here to tell me, are people raising hands? What's our process?
What's your question?
My question is, if someone has a question, do we want it in the chat, or are you monitoring hand raising or anything like that?
Well, I could open up the mics if we can try to do
I'm
that.
open to that.
All right, hold on.
Let's see what happens. Stacy just commented that everything is spot on and you both did a great job. Thanks, Stace.
Thank you.
Okay,
So
they
if
can
anybody-
unmute. They can unmute, or else just to do the chat. it's probably better to do the chat because that gets captured in a file.
Sure. So if people want to put a question in the chat, we'd be happy to forward that through.
If that's too hard, they can unmute because
Yeah.
they got the ability now.
Sure. And if typing or that's tricky, please feel free. As Gary said, have at it.
Somebody did ask about for the credit.
Uh-huh.
Her site doesn't let her download files.
Oh,
So it was in the chat earlier, and I told her to either email you or Phil.
Oh.
I didn't.
Okay. Phil,
And-
whoever asked that question, I would recommend you email Phil.
Okay.
So Brendan Niles has a question related to if anything has changed under COVID, in the COVID world, kind of any tips you have for people about how to navigate your supports, or has your life kind of stayed the same? So Angie, do you want to go first?
Oh, I just read, I was sorry. I was reading a question somebody asked, if we had a backup plan for Angie to live in the home alone.
Yeah.
And yes, we do. We have 2 people that if I am not here, they will be here for Angie, checking on her every day. And one of them will be sleeping here overnight. And her brother even might just move in, he said. If, you know, depending on if he ever gets a wife or kids or anything, you know. But yes, we have things in play where she won't totally live alone.
Mm-hmm. So those supports are there for sure.
Yes.
Did you have any thoughts about, it sounded like Angie, you said earlier that you started some virtual work or virtual work support since COVID. Are there other things that have changed for you during the COVID? Or is that sort of the most remarkable one?
No, not really.
You use the internet.
Yeah.
To find things.
I use the internet to find things.
Angie does not spell, so she has figured out her phone, and she can hit the microphone and talk into it and find things online that she's looking for. She even has figured out how to look up store phone numbers using her telephone.
That's perfect.
Because she called Target to see if they were hiring.
There you go.
So she thinks outside the box. These are some new things that she's gradually growing and developing differently every year. And it's amazing to watch them grow and figure out new things and how to do things. She does not text, but she can use the microphone and speak her words into it, and it would type it out for her, even though she can't read the response. But that's another thing.
So just a little tip on my end. I think the phone will read you the response. There might be a way to figure.
We have to figure out how we can do that without turning on, the other thing, because there's an option in there. You can have it read to you or tell you what button is what, but she knows when she pushes on the apps, she doesn't want it to talk to her. So we haven't figured out how to get it to read stuff back to her and not do it for the whole system on the phone.
Sure. Oh, I hear what you're saying. I think, well, so there's a tip there's a training we could do.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what, so I'm going to discuss, Anna, how has COVID affected your abilities or access and supports and things like that?
I think just like a lot of people, I'm on Zoom a lot, interacting with people and keeping connected for my job. And we are stockpiling like the best of them. So that's pretty much.
Funny.
Is there
Go
a
ahead.
stash of PPE at your house, Anna?
Essentially.
It's okay. Yeah, I think so. I just have a question. I've heard from some advocates that the COVID and the virtual meeting has actually improved some of sort of the, what do I say? It's decreased anxiety around transportation.
Oh,
Like it's better because I don't have to get in a car to go anywhere or try to wait for a ride, that you can just be in your meeting, right? Like in some ways it's been
right.
a benefit for folks who are using paratransit.
I do think, like, even for the case of this conference, there
Mhm.
are ways to make this moment and opportunity and expand our reach to be
Mhm.
able to interact with people in a time where, for the most part, you're not expected to show up face to
Mhm.
face. So how can we make connections with people further away right now to open up new doors in this time?
Yeah, absolutely. See, once again, you guys seizing the opportunity, right? Finding the good in what's happening, and then how do you take advantage of that? It's an excellent suggestion. Kind of comment. Do people have other questions? I think we officially were ending at 11:45, but I don't want to miss anything. Cindy Bentley, you're walking around. I can see you. What are you doing? You're muted, friend. Sorry.
I'm trying to go to the restroom. Love you.
I love you too. This is the one. I do appreciate this virtual conference, but I miss all of you so much. So if anyone have any other, are there other community activities that you guys are participating in, maybe pre-COVID, that were supported, I think, through IRIS Planner and other ways, is a question I have. So hippotherapy, we talked about horseback riding, other clubs or just going out, things that you participate in your community, church, movies, whatever. I mean, things like that, I think, is what people are saying.
Yeah, Angie was in Seeds of Hope until COVID hit, and we pulled her out because they did open Inspired Coffee, and she was working a lot more. I am actually glad that I didn't send her back, because even though they have lessened her hours now at work because of fall, I'm glad I still didn't send her back to Seeds of Hope, because they actually had COVID over there.
Yeah, it's a risky time.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's another safety issue when Angie goes to work. And I mean, we live together, so it's fine in the car. But if VIP has to take her to work or pick her up, now I make sure she knows she has to wear the mask while she's in the van.
Sure.
So you have to take other safety measures and make sure that she's informed of how to be safe. Now, I mean, even going to the grocery store, as she goes with me, the minute we walk in the house, it's routine. You wash your hands before you touch anything.
Yeah, what's that? Make sure we're all following those safety protocols, right?
And some people don't know about it, and they just go day to day. But these are all safety measures that they have to be informed about, so they can be safe in their own life.
Right. Absolutely. Elsa suggested, just for folks who are looking for community stuff, that remembering that Pink Umbrella Company and the Shavarim program from JCC. So I think those are virtual programs, I think, available now out of Milwaukee. All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, just want to thank you, lovely ladies, and all of you who came to join us today. I'm going to want to talk to you more, so I might reach out. But I appreciate everybody's time very much. Thank you so much for being here. And again, I think the sort of, the summary of today is don't be afraid to ask for it and say it out loud to your team, right? We don't know if we don't ask.
That's right.
And if we don't
Thank
have enough
you.
information to ask, we should ask for more information. Right? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Gary. Bye.
Bye.
Up,
No
guys.
problem. Bye, everybody.
They cancel.